Hey everybody, I'm Mike and I'm with
Deb.
And we're super excited to bring to you today's guest, and it's something that is not only important just to seniors, which is what Deb and I like to serve and who we like to get this in front of, but this is really a topic for any consumer out there or any person that wants to protect their identity. And so I'm super excited to bring this guest, and being that I'm in the mortgage and real estate industry, this is information that I plan on getting in front of a lot of different people, and you're gonna find out why. But I'm gonna turn this over to Deb and let her share with you our guest.
Thanks, Mike, and it's so glad to be back. I'll introduce our special guest here in a minute, but I wanted to kind of allude to what Mike and I want to establish this year's platform on, and we've decided to call it awareness. We want to make our seniors feel more comfortable and confident in their environment. And the guests that we hope to bring to you this year will do just that. And that being said, we have a lovely lady that I have known for a short while, but was so impressed with what she's doing with seniors that we just had to have her for our interview. Miss Joyce Petrowski. Did I say that right?
You said it right.
Yay, yay. So Joyce does a world of good in the nonprofit environment. When I met her, actually I was introduced by another person that said, you've got to get to know this lady and what she does. And of course, when I met her, I understood why that person said what they did. But Joyce has been in the nonprofit environment since 2014, but her passion now centers around an organization that she founded known as R.O.S.E. And R.O.S.E stands for Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly.
Correct.
Your mission is to prevent the financial exploitation and defrauding of the older adults through advocacy and education. So Joyce, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is involved in that advocacy and education, and foremost, why you do what you do.
Okay, so I started R.O.S.E because I had a personal experience with an older adult loved one that was a victim of a romance scam. And I had heard about scams, didn't know a lot about them, started doing a lot of research, and I saw how prevalent it was all throughout the United States. And so, and I looked at a lot of organizations that work in this area, and a lot of them help, the majority of what they do is helping when you become a victim. And so I said, well, let's not have an older adult become a victim. Let's see if we can't educate them and make them more aware and know how to protect themselves so they do not fall victim to these scams. And it just is, it's a passion because you think about it, you work your whole life, right?
Right.
You raise kids, or maybe you don't raise kids, but still you work your whole life and you save for retirement, you have your retirement assets to live the way you want to live in retirement. And then somebody comes along and plays on your emotions and your good nature and takes it all away from you.
Incredible.
It's wrong. It's just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact that you take it from a more proactive approach than a reactive. So why don't you share with us how you go about doing that? What is the proactiveness in your program?
So we realize that the older adults, and I'm one of them. I grew up in an era of no technology, right? We didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, none of that stuff. And we were very philanthropic. And when I say philanthropic, it's not just money, it's time, talent, and treasure. And you were quick to trust people, right? And you carry those beliefs now into today's world with all of this technology. It's just a perfect storm. So we look at it from a perspective, like you said, of being proactive. So our fraud awareness and protection program is about educating the older adults and making them aware that these scams are out there, that they're one of the largest targeted populations in the United States. And we talk about the statistics. we do United States, and then we bring it to Arizona, but then we talk about some scams, you know, like the romance, the grandparents, the tech support, the emails, the text messages, all that stuff. And then but the best part about it is the protection. We have resources, we have tips and tools, and it's about, I want to say 8 pages front and back, or maybe 10 pages now, of just all these different resources that, and the attendees take those home. Now we go over them, but they can take them home and say, okay, well, for my life, this and this makes sense for me, and I'm going to implement this. But the whole, our program is meant to be reoccurring, because, you know, you go to something, right? You go to a program and you're listening and you're interested in what they're talking about, but you leave, and what do? You continue on with your daily routine, your weekly routine, monthly, and you might not implement what was talked about, and then you forget. So we like to do it at a minimum twice a year, because we can bring the stuff we've already talked about to reinforce, but there's always new stuff. Like the new stuff now is the AI, right? To talk about that. And the whole, our belief is, once the older adults understand and are aware and educated on this, and they know how to protect themselves, they're gonna be the ones that are not gonna answer that phone call, not respond to that email, you know, not engage.
And I think that's so important, the educational piece, because as you say, you know, the technology is just overwhelming. I grew up in the same genre and generation, you know, where we drank out of the hose when we were through playing in the backyard.
Yeah, I did that in West Texas.
Yeah.
It explains a lot.
Same here. And, you know, it was time to come home when the street lights came, you know, it came on, and, you know, that was your world. And now it is so complex, and there's so much going on with technology that if you press the wrong button, you've opened up a whole Pandora's box. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and Mike and I share in your passion of, you know, let's protect our seniors. So I'm not going to put you in the hot seat, so to speak, but I do have, Mike and I had formulated these questions, and we're going to propose them to every guest that we have.
Okay.
And the first question is, if you had to pick 2 things that were the most disturbing to you out of your daily task in dealing with the fraud protection and that type of environment, what would you pinpoint as those 2?
Well, we recently have had some conversations with a lady, and she actually did a story on one of the news stations here in Phoenix, but she was anonymous, you know, on the story, and she had fallen victim, and it was a tech support scam, and they were really good. The scammers were really good at what they did to convince her to continually go get money out of her bank account and put it into this cryptocurrency ATM. She thought she was safeguarding her money, right? Because they were all about it, there's fraud on your account, you can't talk to the bank, they're in on it, all this stuff, and they scared her. And they kept her in that emotional state of fear. And then they took 75 to 80% of her retirement. And she was at the point where she had a bottle of sleeping pills, and she was ready to take them one night. And she said if it wasn't for the crisis hotline and her best friend, she probably would have taken those. That is just, I don't even have, it's heartbreaking, yes. And it just, you know, I don't want to say having somebody fall victim fuels me, but when I hear stories like that, it fuels me even more to want to help get the word out and the education, you know, and all of that.
Okay, that's one. What would you say a second one would be that touched you so deeply?
You know, it's I know this happens a lot, okay? I have not personally talked to a family member that has had this happen to their loved one, but there are a lot of older adults that once they realize they've become a victim and they've lost money and all of this, you know, it's not just the financial loss. it goes so much farther than that. It's the emotional and the psychological, and so much so that the CDC has come out and said this is a problem. This is a major health problem, because it leads to, you know, if you just look at the trickle down effect, you know, you have somebody that falls victim, and now they feel shame and embarrassment, and they don't want to talk to anybody, and they become more isolated.
Right.
But now they don't have the finances that they had, so they might not be able to afford their medications. So now they're taking it half the amount of time that they should, right, to stretch it out. They might not be able to afford their regular well checkups, or if they have a condition or a diagnosis, to be able to go see the doctor as much. And the mortality effect.
And that's
I
horrible.
mean, it's awful. It's just awful what, and you know, the trickle down effect that this has.
That gives me goosebumps, because I deal with seniors all the time, and Mike does on a regular basis as well. And to see, you know, that's someone's parent.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's a person. And
Exactly.
just because they're older doesn't mean they're less intelligent.
No,
or
absolutely
less,
not.
You know, they're being taken victim.
Right.
So we're going to pivot and do the
Okay.
positive note now. What are two of the most rewarding things that you redeem out of doing what you do on a daily basis?
So first, it would be, you know, when we do these presentations, or somebody calls us and they talk about their situation, and they tell us that they almost fell victim. But, and I just, one of my my last podcast episode that came out last week, I interviewed a gentleman from, I believe it was Oregon, and he was actively involved in a pig butchering scam. But he verifies what he does before he trusts what's going on. And that is one of the 3 top tips that we tell people. You know, what Ronald Reagan said in the early 80s, trust but verify. You have to flip it around. You have to verify before you can trust.
Yeah.
And so he verified everything, and in his research about cryptocurrency and all this, pig butchering scam came up, and he read it, and it was like, it said 10 things that you'll see in a pig butchering scam, and he was like, she hit all of them, all 10 of them, you know? And so by him verifying before he trusted and gave her money to put into this investment, you know, it helped him, it prevented him from falling victim. And so just hearing those stories, you know, is just awesome. And, you know, in our presentations, you know, we hear people, you know, that they'll say, oh, I just don't answer the phone, you know, and I hang up on them, you know, and we love to hear that. It's like, you don't have to worry about being rude. They're being rude,
right,
because they're trying to take your money.
Right.
You be rude back to them. Hang up on them, right? So.
I just think that's so monumental, especially in today's times. You know, technology is wonderful. It has brought us so much in the last 20 years, but it's the yin and the yang.
Right.
You know, with that, you've got some of that negativity, and someone is always going to be the predator that's looking for someone to fall prey.
Right.
So Joyce, we're just delighted to have you. We're going to include your website and any other information that you'd like for us to share.
And we'll be sure to put your podcast link in the notes as
Yeah,
well.
that'd be great.
And we're going to have some bonus material available on our Facebook page. So we try to keep these podcast episodes short and sweet, 10 to 15 minutes. And then we also share it on YouTube, which is probably where you're seeing this. But again, go to our Facebook page. The link is in the bio. But thank you so much for coming by and sharing this awesome information.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And remember, all you seniors out there, that what we're trying to do is help you feel comfortable and build confidence in your life. You don't have to be afraid. We're going to bring more guests like this onto our platform to share with you the positive aspects of what you can continue to do in this chapter of your life. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Deb.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time.
See you next
Thanks,
time.
Joyce.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.